On June 23, 1941, elements of the 6th Panzer Division achieved multiple direct hits with 50mm anti-tank guns against a single Soviet heavy tank near Raseiniai, Lithuania, without achieving penetration at ranges as close as 100 meters. The engagement lasted 24 hours before an 88mm flak gun finally destroyed the vehicle, forcing German commanders to confront the catastrophic inadequacy of Wehrmacht anti-tank weapons against Soviet heavy armor. This lone KV-2, weighing 52 tons and mounting a 152mm howitzer in a 12-ton turret, represented the operational nightmare that would compel Germany to divert substantial industrial capacity from tank production to retrofitting 1,400 existing panzers with additional armor protection. The monster that stopped an entire panzer division's advance embodied the Soviet Union's emerging doctrine of overwhelming firepower and protection that would reshape armored warfare for the remainder of World War II. The 6th Panzer Division under Major General Erhard Raus had advanced 80 kilometers in 36 hours, maintaining an aggressive pace of advance toward the Daugava river crossings near Daugavpils. The division's anti-tank weapons included the 37mm PaK-35 and early 50mm PaK-38 guns, with the PaK-38 fired a 1.4 kilogram armor-piercing round at 823 meters per second, capable of penetrating 64mm of homogeneous armor at 100 meters. The KV-2's armor protection ranged from 75mm on the hull sides to 75mm on the glacis plate at 30 degrees, providing effective protection of 110 to 130mm, rendering German anti-tank guns completely ineffective at any practical combat range. Kampfgruppe Raus, the advanced detachment that encountered the Soviet tank, consisted of elements from Panzer Battalion 65 with Panzer 35T tanks mounting 37mm guns that could penetrate only 30 to 40mm of armor at 100 meters. The operational crisis extended beyond a single tank engagement. German intelligence had identified Soviet T-34 medium tanks, but possessed no comprehensive understanding of Soviet heavy tank capabilities or distribution across Red Army mechanized formations. Contemporary accounts recorded the tank as having an unusually large turret and noted that repeated 50mm anti-tank gunfire from ranges as close as 100 meters achieved no penetration. The division deployed 4 50mm anti-tank guns in sequence, repositioning from longer to shorter ranges, achieving multiple confirmed hits without penetration. Pioneer assaults with demolition charges failed when the tank's machine gun fire repelled German infantry, inflicting casualties before an 88mm flak gun created holes in the hull, allowing pioneers to successfully finish the vehicle with grenades. Where are you watching from today, and what's the most impressive piece of military hardware you've ever seen in person? Drop a comment with your location and tell us about that tank, artillery piece, or warship that left an impression on you. If you're fascinated by the engineering and doctrine that actually decide wars, subscribe now and turn on notifications for more deep dives into military history's most consequential weapons. The KV-2 emerged from the systematic failure of Soviet multi-turreted heavy tanks during the Winter War against Finland. Senior engineer Zinovy Alexandrovich Kotin led the SKB-2 design bureau at Leningrad Kirov factory from 1937, overseeing development of the KV series after the catastrophic performance of T-35 heavy tanks against Finnish bunkers. The main Autotractor Directorate issued development orders in late 1939, commissioning development of a KV with large turret, specifically to mount the 152mm M10 howitzer for bunker destruction missions. Design constraints mandated a combat weight not exceeding 52 tons, armor protection of 75mm on the hull front, and compatibility with existing KV-1 chassis components to minimize production disruption. Kotin's team delivered 2 prototypes in early 1940, designated Object 222 and featuring the massive MT2 turret housing the 152mm M10 howitzer. The turret alone weighed approximately 12 tons, requiring extensive reinforcement of the turret ring and hull structure to absorb recoil forces from the 40-kilogram high-explosive shells. Post-war trials demonstrated devastating effectiveness against concrete bunkers, with single 152mm rounds penetrating approximately 1 meter of reinforced concrete at 1,000-meter range. The weapon's area denial capability extended to 120-meter lethal radius against personnel, transforming the KV-2 from tank destroyer into mobile artillery platform. The KV-2 represented a fundamental departure from conventional tank design philosophy. Combat weight reached 52.5 metric tons, with overall length of 6.95 meters, including gun overhang, and height of 3.93 meters to the turret roof. The massive box turret housed part of an 11-man crew, commander, gunner, 3 to 4 loaders for the 40-kilogram shells, sight setter, with driver and machine gunners operating the 7.62mm DT coaxial weapon. The 152mm M10 howitzer fired the OF-530 high-explosive fragmentation shell, weighing 43.5 kilograms, with 6.23 kilograms of TNT filler at a muzzle velocity of 506 meters per second. Manual loading of the separate projectile and cartridge case limited sustained rate of fire to 1 to 2 rounds per minute, though experienced crews could achieve 3 rounds in the first minute under optimal conditions. Armor protection varied across the hull and turret, with the glacis plate ranging from 75 to 90 mm thickness, and the turret front providing effective protection of 110 mm due to the angular mounting. The manual turret traverse required approximately 4.2 minutes for a complete 360-degree rotation on level ground, severely limiting the vehicle's ability to engage multiple targets or respond to flanking attacks. The V2K diesel engine produced 600 horsepower, but struggled to propel the 52-ton vehicle at speeds exceeding 26 km per hour on roads, with cross-country mobility further degraded by the high center of gravity and ground pressure of 0.77 kilograms per square centimeter. Soviet mechanized formations deployed limited numbers of operational KV-2s when Operation Barbarossa commenced on June 22, 1941. The 3rd and 12th Mechanized Corps' heavy tank elements allocated KV-2s alongside KV-1 and T-34 support elements across multiple battalions. Soviet Mechanized Corps field orders emphasized standoff anti-tank tactics, directing KV-2 crews to engage German anti-tank gun positions at maximum range, where the 152mm howitzer's blast radius could suppress entire gun sections while remaining immune to return fire. The Raseiniai engagement unfolded exactly as Soviet doctrine prescribed, but with tactical implications that exceeded all expectations. The lone tank, likely from the 3rd or 12th Mechanized Corps' forward detachment, positioned itself on the main road where marshy terrain prevented German bypass maneuvers. German 50mm PaK-38 guns engaged from extended range, achieving multiple direct hits on the turret front and mantlet without penetration. Repositioning to closer ranges yielded additional hits with identical results, forcing final positioning at close range where more impacts still failed to breach the Soviet armor. The tank's machine gun fire dominated the engagement zone, preventing German pioneer assaults with demolition charges and inflicting casualties on exposed anti-tank gun crews. The tank remained largely stationary throughout the engagement, likely immobilized or out of ammunition, but its defensive fire continued to deny German movement. The psychological impact proved as significant as the tactical delay, with German soldiers referring to the vehicle as a Russian monster and questioning the adequacy of their equipment against Soviet heavy armor. The engagement continued for 24 hours until an 88mm flak gun arrived from divisional reserves. Positioned at extended range, the flak gun fired multiple rounds, achieving penetrations that created breaches in the hull armor. German pioneers then successfully approached under covering fire and dropped hand grenades through the holes, finally destroying the tank and killing its crew. Contemporary accounts recorded multiple impacts on the vehicle from 50mm anti-tank guns proving completely ineffective against the tank's protection. Germany's response to the KV threat forced tactical reorganization across the Eastern Front. The Army High Command deployed 88mm flak guns from Reich Air Defense to frontline units, requiring production modifications and transport resources. Each Flak 36 weighed approximately 5 tons in combat configuration, with diversion consuming substantial steel resources and manufacturing capacity. The economic arithmetic revealed the devastating asymmetry of heavy tank encounters against unprepared anti-tank defenses. The economic arithmetic revealed the devastating asymmetry of the KV-2's impact. Deploying additional flak guns cost substantial resources and delayed other production priorities, forcing Wehrmacht workshops to retrofit existing anti-tank gun positions and develop new tactical doctrine, emphasizing flanking attacks and 88mm gun deployment. The first flak guns reached frontline units within weeks, but the damage to German operational timelines had already been inflicted. The broader Battle of Raseiniai, with Soviet counterattacks by mechanized corps, forced 4th Panzer Group into deliberate river-crossing operations that consumed time and resources critical to the advance on Leningrad. German industry responded with comprehensive tank upgrades, welding Schutzen side skirts onto approximately 1,400 Panzer III and IV hulls by March 1942. Each retrofit added 450 kilograms and 8 to 12 workshop hours, consuming over 630 metric tons of steel plate, specifically to address Soviet anti-tank rifle and heavy tank threats. The Wehrmacht diverted production capacity, rail transport, and field workshops to defend against weapons the Soviets manufactured for fractions of German unit costs, creating an industrial arithmetic that favored Soviet mass production over German technical sophistication. Leningrad, Kirov Factory, and Chelyabinsk produced approximately 330 KV-2s total across the entire production run, with 100 units completed in 1940 and approximately 230 through mid-1941, before the German siege shut down Leningrad operations. Each KV-2 hull required substantial additional man-hours versus the KV-1's production time, with the additional complexity concentrated in turret ring reinforcement and ammunition handling systems. Monthly output peaked at 31 units in October 1941, before Leningrad siege conditions ended production permanently. The production economics highlighted Soviet advantages in simplified manufacturing and resource allocation. While Germany invested 300,000 man-hours and 250,000 Reichsmarks in each Tiger I tank, the Soviet Union produced KV-2s using existing KV chassis at substantial man-hours per vehicle after initial tooling. The Kirov factory's dispersed production methods, utilizing agricultural equipment workshops across the Urals, delivered 17,700 PTRD anti-tank rifles in 7 weeks during late 1941, demonstrating Soviet capacity for rapid weapon deployment under siege conditions. The economic disparity extended to ammunition production and logistics support. Each 152mm OF 530 shell cost 45 rubles to manufacture, versus the Flak 36's specialized armor-piercing rounds at 180 Reichsmarks per projectile. Soviet factories produced 2.15 million 152mm rounds by 1941, while German industry struggled to supply adequate 88mm ammunition for the diverted flak guns. The KV-2's 36-round ammunition load represented 1,620 rubles in manufacturing cost, equivalent to the price of binoculars in the German procurement system. The KV-2's legacy transcended its brief production run and tactical limitations. Most vehicles were lost by 1942 to 43, with very few surviving to late war service in training schools and secondary formations. Finland captured one KV-2 and operated it alongside captured KV-1s through 1944, while surviving Soviet vehicles participated in the final assault on Königsberg during the East Prussian operation. KV-2s saw limited late war service alongside more modern heavy tanks in various operations through the war's end. post-war influence extended through Soviet heavy tank development and modern commemorative appearances. The KV-2's overwhelming firepower philosophy influenced the ISU-152 assault gun and established Soviet doctrine emphasizing area denial over precision engagement. Restored KV-1 tanks participated in the Victory Day Parade on Red Square, Moscow, on May 9, 2010, during the ceremony commemorating the war's end. Several operational restored KV-2s exist worldwide in museums and private collections, with the design's fundamental concept of trading mobility for firepower appearing in modern Russian artillery systems. The single tank that engaged Kampfgruppe Raus in this localized action represented more than tactical success. It demonstrated the industrial and doctrinal revolution that would define armored warfare for the remainder of World War II. The KV-2's immunity to German anti-tank weapons forced Wehrmacht commanders to confront the reality that their pre-war assumptions about Soviet capabilities were catastrophically wrong. The monster that stopped elements of a panzer division became the template for Soviet heavy tank doctrine that prioritized overwhelming firepower and protection over mechanical sophistication, a philosophy that would carry the Red Army from the gates of Leningrad to the Reichstag steps. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the engineering and doctrine that shaped World War II, hit subscribe for more military history analysis every week. Thanks for watching.